Hi, my name is Sherrie. I am a researcher with SMS Research Group. Um, Specialize in subjectivity, sciences of the mind, behavior engineering, and emerging technology. Um, those may seem like disparaging subjects, but they actually have quite a bit in common. And my main intent in my research is around emerging technologies and their ability to elicit very precise and controlled human behavior. Um, but as I began my research, I found that to understand these types of technological systems, you also have to understand the human mind. I believe that an area where a lot of sciences are deficient is in the area of subjectivity. And interestingly enough, the scientist that realized that deficit was actually Einstein, hence his theory of relativity. Now, what this means in the science world is that the perceiver plays an important role in the patterns that we attempt to define in the world of physics, in the world of biology, chemistry. Science is patterning. And if you can determine a pattern, you can make some general rules about the expectations of your environment, which is the basis of science. And from there, science forms specializations: biology, physics, quantum mechanics, sociology, psychology. Those are all specializations within the realm of science. But overall, they're the study of patterns. And to truly understand patterning, again, you must understand the role of the perceiver in those patterns. Back to Einstein. So Einstein found that the perceiver is a participant in the pattern making. We know that if you wanted to perform observation on the smallest of quantum materials, a single photon, the act of observing changes the result. Hence the power of the perceiver. And that change indicates that the perceiver has some interaction with what is perceived, which is very fascinating. So let me begin with a metaphor. I enjoy metaphors. I think something about the act of storytelling can reach into the minds of the listener more than mere lecturing. So in my research, I use metaphor, or I quote excellent metaphor, because there are some stories that exist out there with a phenomenal indirect and subtle message. So my metaphor. Once there was a fox and a dog, and the dog turned to Fox and said, "I have a question." To which the fox replied, "Ask me your question, dog." The dog stood silent for a moment, with with a thoughtful gaze, then asked, "How did we begin? How did we all begin? What is this?" And the fox, he said, "Such a grand question for such a limited being. But I shall tell you. Please sit. In the beginning, there was darkness and water. Only darkness and water. The dog interrupted Fox. "But where do I sit? There is only water." So, the subtle significance of this story is to show the power of the storyteller. As Fox began his story, the universe manifested itself in congruence with the story. Such a beautiful metaphor. So, to give some background on the human mind, I'd like to start off by saying that we all occupy a single universe. Each individual is his or her own universe. We all have our unique perspectives of the world, our own unique map of the territory. And our bodies are just vessels, an interface system, a computer system. Imagine being an alien living on Mars, and one day you walk outside and you see this strange little creature. He has wheels, and he appears to be prodding around at the earth, collecting bits of red sand, and it really looks like it knows what it's doing. It looks like every move has intent. And you would think, just observing the rover without knowing its context, that it really knew what it was doing. But in reality, so many miles away are the people behind the curtain. Those that are actually running the machine. Those parts of the machine's mind that are so far back, they're unseen, unknown. How could they be? How could you know of their existence when you're sitting here watching this little machine dabble about on the earth? It's just an interface. It has sensors, can feel the sand, can feel the wind, it can see using its cameras, it can hear using its microphones. And the people behind the curtain, the people running the machine, they are almost the internal. the internal visuals, the internal auditory, the voice in the head, the internal feelings. So we're just a vessel collecting data on our environment. We can see with our eyes, we can see with our mind, we can feel with our hands and feel throughout our body. We can hear voices. We can hear our own inner voice, our own inner dialogue. We experience everything externally, internally. Two completely different worlds.